Welcome back to Fast Market here on the Schwab Network. Let's bring in our next guest for our cash tag segment. That's going to be Andy Swan, co-founder at Likefolio, joining us. Welcome back to the show, Andy.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you, too. So we're talking DoorDash, we're talking delivery. This company is still, negative EPS moving forward, but it seems to be on the track of Uber as far as trying to get to profitability. For this company. Stocks had a pretty decent run after a lackluster 2023. But do you guys have data that kind of supports the bullishness in the stock?
Yeah, I'm starting to get a little concerned that the stock's getting ahead of itself, and the reason why is we're really seeing overall mentions of DoorDash. So that's people online talking about ordered from DoorDash something. Those are down 9% year over year, and really just not the growth rate I think we've come to expect from DoorDash. It's certainly not what the stock I think is pricing in. We're seeing the same thing in terms of web visits, which has been really pretty predictive of company revenues. Pretty flat. Maybe even just slightly lower year over year. Certainly beating Grubhub, which seems to be in a very difficult position. But we're starting to see Uber Eats, take market share or take some of that mind share from the consumer. And I think DoorDash has had a pretty good run of being top of mind. But now, as food prices, delivery prices, everything getting really, really high and starting to pinch the wallets of consumers, I think that consumers are just starting to do the natural thing, and that is shop around and see, kind of like we did with Uber versus Lyft, is the new Uber versus DoorDash. Let's take a look at both and see which one's cheaper, which one can get a meal to me quicker, that sort of thing. So I think it's a two-horse race. DoorDash certainly performing well, but not the growth rate I think that we've become accustomed to from the company. And we'll find out, in a couple of weeks, they'll have their earnings call. It'll be right on the heels of the Super Bowl, which is an enormous day for them. And so I'm looking forward to that call. I do think it's going to be tough for them to, live up to the expectations that they kind of set with the last quarter's call, which showed, losses were shrinking and the company was getting closer and closer to profitability. But I'm just a little concerned that the consumer might be pulling back or looking to competitors a little bit more than they used to at just the wrong time for this company.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, Andy, we're getting excited because they cut the losses so significantly, right, on the way to profitability. And do you guys have any data? Obviously, during during COVID, delivery spiked, and then there was the swoon back lower. But I'm actually kind of impressed how these companies seem to be continuing to evolve. Like Dash acquired the Wolt that does the last mile on grocery and retail. So they're expanding a little bit. It looks like they're inching closer. It looks like, Andy, all data points to delivery's not going away. People are doing more delivery, and it's not a fad that was destined to fail. Is your data seeing that? Because, boy, that's what it certainly sounds like. And they look like they're on the same path as Uber to eventually get profitable.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great analysis. It's encapsulates really what we're talking about, and that is that the last mile delivery is an extraordinarily lucrative space. It's an enormous opportunity. The consumer is not dropping its delivery habits at all. Everybody wants what they want, whether that's groceries, food, products. They want it as quickly as possible and as easily and conveniently as possible. And I think Uber and DoorDash both recognize that. And I think ultimately where this all nets out, just like we've talked about with Uber on this show a lot of times, is there's a little bit of a binary bet here on autonomous driving just in general, because both of these companies, Uber and DoorDash, as soon as you cut out the part where you have to pay the driver, these companies become immensely profitable overnight, and the margin expansion becomes just kind of like a once in a lifetime type of event. If you believe that that can happen within the next 3 years, this is one type of play. If you believe it's something that takes 15 years, it's another play. But in any event, I think both Uber and DoorDash are doing a fantastic job of developing the technology, the brand, and the consumer base for that last mile delivery. And I think those are the two winners going forward. It's just really a matter of whether or not you believe they'll be able to cut that big expense off the balance sheet or off the income statement anytime soon.
Yeah, that keeps on getting pushed back as far as driverless delivery. Yeah. But one of the outliers here that maybe the headwinds created, White House administration set to update a final rule. It makes it more difficult to treat these workers as gig workers and and make them not independent contractors. Is that maybe a headwind here for this stock that people are forgetting about?
Yeah, I think it is. I think these companies, a lot of times these technology companies, they come from out of nowhere. They disrupt the way the world works. They change the game. Consumers flock to them. Consumers love it. And then eventually, government gets involved and things change and
Yes.
headwinds develop. And I think that's definitely happening in this space. I'm not an expert on, quantifying that in terms of how much of a headwind that is, but I do think that's a reality coming down the pipeline that shareholders definitely need to be aware of.
Yep, going into earnings in a couple weeks, Andy, with this rally we've seen of over 100% over the last 12, 13 months, are you guys still bullish on this? You got an earnings score for us?
Yeah, I think a pullback's the more likely scenario. I think the stock's just priced almost to, not perfection, but to a phenomenal report, and I think that there's going to be at least some reason for executives just to throw a little cold water on that.
Yeah, the stock's up 10% so far this year, probably on the back of some of the tech names getting boosted up here, even though there's been no news on DoorDash recently. All right, great stuff. As always, Andy, have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too. Appreciate it.
All right, that's Andy Swank.